Welcome back. French President Emmanuel Macron is in China. He's emphasized on the role that China has to play in stopping the war in Ukraine. China has thus far shied away from criticizing Russia. It has offered its own peace plan. Macron also sounded off a warning to Europe and said it must not detach itself from China economically, which would lead to serious ramifications given the volume of Chinese investment in the European economy. Let's listen in.
Посилення нашої армії. І це дуже важливо. Я дякую, що ми сьогодні обговорили і прийняли рішення. І ще будемо обговорювати з прем'єр-міністром щодо потужного пакету, який посилить наших людей. І вони міцні. Я хочу подякувати. Якщо ви не проти сьогодні, ми тут, в Варшаві, але там, в окопах Бахмуту і Мар'їнки, Авдіївки. Там знаходяться наші люди, справжні воїни, чоловіки, жінки, абсолютно міцні люди, яких ми, на жаль, через Росію втрачаємо щоденно. Я хочу вам подякувати за потужний оборонний пакет, яким ми посилимо наших бійців і будемо захищати їх життя, бо вони ризикують своїм життям заради, я впевнений, ви це розумієте, заради не тільки життя українців, а заради майбутнього життя ваших дітей, дітей Європи.
Okay, apologies. That was Volodymyr Zelensky's statement. We were referring to Emmanuel Macron's statement with regards to Europe's investment in the entire in the economy when it comes to China and its involvement in as a trade partner. Let's listen into that statement first.
La sécurité alimentaire, nous devons aussi travailler ensemble. Et en juin prochain, nous aurons un sommet très important pour rebâtir le nouveau pacte financier mondial et définir justement les termes financiers de la solidarité internationale, qu'il s'agisse des questions de dette, qu'il s'agisse de la mobilisation de la Banque mondiale, du FMI, pour lutter tout à la fois contre les inégalités et les conséquences du dérèglement climatique. Nous avons besoin de l'engagement de la Chine.
So Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, on the other hand, is a neighboring nation of Poland, which has been a major ally and has taken in over 1 million Ukrainian war refugees since the beginning of the war. A number of NATO and EU members has been modernizing its military with equipment from US and South Korea, while the United States has also beefed up its military presence in Poland. Let's quickly listen in to Zelensky's statement.
Посилення нашої армії. І це дуже важливо. Я дякую, що ми сьогодні обговорили і прийняли рішення. І ще будемо обговорювати з прем'єр-міністром щодо потужного пакету, який посилить наших людей. І вони міцні. Я хочу подякувати. Якщо ви не проти сьогодні, ми тут, в Варшаві, але там, в окопах Бахмуту і Мар'їнки, Авдіївки. Там знаходяться наші люди, справжні воїни, чоловіки, жінки, абсолютно міцні люди, яких ми, на жаль, через Росію втрачаємо щоденно. Я хочу вам подякувати за потужний оборонний пакет, яким ми посилимо наших бійців і будемо захищати їх життя, бо вони ризикують своїм життям заради, я впевнений, ви це розумієте, заради не тільки життя українців, а заради майбутнього життя ваших дітей, дітей Європи.
Poland has conferred its highest award to Volodymyr Zelensky. Very good evening. Ambassador Achal Malhotra is with us here this evening. Thank you for joining us, sir. You heard those two statements, and it's interesting how Mr. Zelensky there is talking about how Russia is not going to stop at Ukraine. It has bigger ambitions. Whereas you have the French Prime Minister talking about how you cannot completely dismiss China as a trade partner. It has huge stakes in the economy of Europe. So how are you viewing these two parallel developments, Ambassador Malhotra?
Afrida, let me first take Macron. You know, the anti-China rhetoric post-pandemic, during the pandemic, which was initiated by Donald Trump, appears to be waning. And, you know, even if it is not completely died down. The approach of the West, including America and Europe now, is that on issues such as trade and economy, climate change, and few other issues related to the global economy, they must engage China. There's no other option but not to engage China. While their efforts to contain China will continue, whether they are in the Indo-Pacific or in other parts of the world. So they have adopted a dual kind of an approach, which is contain China wherever it is required and engage China wherever it is needed, not only in the interest of Europe or America, but in the overall global interest. For example, climate change, there can't be any progress unless China cooperates, being one of the leading polluting countries in the world. So this is the dual approach. If you look at the composition of the French president's delegation, there are 50 CEOs of important companies, and that itself indicates that the emphasis is going to be on trade and economy.
Right.
As far as, shall I talk about the
yes. Zelensky's
Polish
statement as well?
Zelensky?
Yes.
Well, Zelensky has been visiting off and on Warsaw, but this is a highly kind of a proper state visit, which is being organized now. We all know that Poland is one of the strongest ally in Russia's, Ukraine's conflict with Russia at this point of time. And Poland has also emerged as a very important NATO partner for the purpose of, for the channeling of the arms and other supplies
yes.
To Ukraine. And Ukraine, if you look at what Zelensky is trying to convey, it's trying to convey a message that it is not only for Ukraine that Zelensky is talking to the rest of the world. If Russia is not stopped at the Ukrainian borders, Russia may tomorrow attack Poland or Finland, or they call it a Russian imperialism, will then pose threats and danger to the rest of the partners also in Europe and elsewhere.
Yes. But at a time when, sorry to interrupt you, but at a time when the entire rhetoric, entire narrative of the West has been towards how we should all, gather forces against Russia, even, for instance, the recent membership of Finland, the NATO membership that has drawn so much attention. At a time like this, for the French PM to come out and say, listen, we cannot completely ignore China, we need to rope in China as a partner. Do you think that that creates a wedge within Europe, within the Western world as well?
No, I think this has been the stated policy of the West, to engage China in a certain limited manner. And France, has always been ambitious to be an important player in Europe at least, and be a peacemaker to the extent possible. In 2008, when there was a war between Russia and Georgia, 7 days war, it was France in its capacity as the EU president who brokered the deal. And, later on, the Geneva talks were started. Even after the 2014 conflict, France was one of the, important players in the Normandy format to decide on the political future of Donbas region. Nothing happened, it's a different matter. At the initial stages of the conflict also, France had made some efforts towards brokering peace.
Yes.
Now, today the position is that, the West has taken very strong positions.
Right.
And they think that China may be able to at least influence Russia to a certain extent. Probably they may persuade China to convince Russia not to go beyond a certain point, meaning not to use nuclear option, not even tactical nuclear option, even if the things seem to be getting out of control.
Yes.
Otherwise, they have not.
Yes. There is a bit of a balancing act that Mr. Macron is trying to do as well, because he also said territorial integrity, sovereignty of nations is a part of the Charter of United Nations, in a gentle nudge perhaps to China. So that is supposed to be perhaps like a reminder to China of its international obligations. But thanks, Ambassador Malhotra, for giving us important...
That also should be pleasing to the Chinese ears, because in the context of Taiwan, if The respect to territorial integrity means Taiwan, don't touch Taiwan. It's a part of China.
Right.
And everybody acknowledges and recognizes that, including United States and the rest of the Europe.
Yes,
So
so
it works both
there's
ways.
a message on both those fronts, perhaps.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah.
completely out of time. Thank you so much, Ambassador Achal Malhotra, for joining us on the program. Let's turn to the latest.